Hi, I'm Rob Wright, Security News Director at TechTarget, and I am here with security news writer Alex Culafi. Alex, welcome.
Thanks, Rob.
We are here today to discuss Log4Shell, a critical vulnerability in a popular open source software package. It's causing a lot of concern in the InfoSec industry. If you want to learn more about Log4Shell and the latest goings on, you can check out our landing page on TechTarget News. Let's get into it, Alex. Why is this so concerning for the InfoSec industry?
So Log4Shell is a 10 in the common vulnerability scoring system, which I won't explain, but it is the industry standard for how bad a vulnerability is, and 10 is the highest score you can get.
The worst of the worst.
But this one's uniquely bad because it's a remote code execution vulnerability that, one, is ubiquitous. This Java logging framework is in cloud applications, it's in non-cloud applications, it's in iCloud, it's in Minecraft, it's in SMBs, enterprises, and it's everywhere. In fact, many companies not only utilize their own instance of Log4j, but they'll also use let's say something on their back end that also utilizes its own instance of Log4j. So very ubiquitous, but also it's hard to patch, not just because of the reasons I just described, but also Log4j2 has been going since 2014, the whole framework for the last 20 years. And because of that, some of the engineers who are at companies now weren't there when Log4j was onboarded, making it very complicated. And then the last reason is that it's very easy to exploit. It only takes a single string of malicious code in of the log files of a vulnerable server to completely exploit this. My favorite line comes from Checkpoint Research. They just did an FAQ where they said even a 6-year-old could exploit it.
Let's hope my 6-year-old doesn't get into this then. So what is the latest on the exploitation of Log4Shell? Are we seeing attacks, and if so, how many?
We're definitely seeing attacks. One of the things that's so interesting about this, in fact, is when a major vulnerability comes out, usually it takes a little time for it to ramp up, but this was disclosed, I think, December 9th, and we were seeing news of exploitation and mass exploitation within hours and a couple days. I talked to Cloudflare's CTO, Joe Sullivan. He told me Monday, I believe, that they were seeing 1 million exploit attempts that they were blocking. Cloudflare is a cloud security vendor, an hour. And then there's
1 million an hour. Wow.
And their CEO, Matthew Prince, said the next day that they were seeing 400 per second exploit attempts, which is absurd numbers.
Yeah, I'm not great at math. That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of attacks. The vulnerability is bad. What can organizations do to protect themselves?
The good news is, shortly after this was disclosed, the Apache Software Foundation, which is responsible for Log4j, they released a patch for this that takes care of the configuration issues that allow the original vulnerability to happen in the first place.
And we talked about how things are changing minute by minute. There is an issue now where another vulnerability was found. This is all very complicated, and there's a new version, 2.16, that is out from Apache this week for Log4j, and it addresses another vulnerability. Somebody discovered that the original patch for Log4Shell did not fully close the vulnerability, and that organizations were still open to a denial of service attack. This new version, 2.16, closes that vulnerability, and Apache Software also said that based on the revelation of the new vulnerability, that some of the old mitigations that they recommended don't quite work as well. So there's all new documentation out there, and we encourage all of the organizations out there that have Log4j in their environments to go read that and download the latest version, 2.16, because you want to be as up to date as possible with Log4Shell.